You are listening to I Survived the Wild Outdoors podcast, where real outdoors men and women share their heroic tales of survival. I'm your host, Brad Mathewson, and this is their story. My guest today is a fellow Wisconsinite. He hails from a very small community in Crawford County. His name is Kris Bjerke. After his accident, he decided to pay it forward by training to be a volunteer firefighter and EMS in his rural town. On November 23rd, 2022, little did Kris know his basic first aid he had learned as a lifeguard and as a Boy Scout would lead a key role in his survival. While laying in a deep gully in southwestern Wisconsin, next to a big buck he harvested, and with no cell phone service, Kris wondered, was today the day he would meet his maker? Can you tell us what happened that day, Kris?
Right before Thanksgiving last year, during the 2022 gun deer season here in Wisconsin. It was, I don't even know what day it was, but it was November 23rd. That day does ring a bell for me. Was supposed to get a turkey ready for the family Thanksgiving, and got that all in its brine. Went out hunting the next morning. Got out about 6:30. Walked out into the stand. My son walked over to his stand. I dropped him off there, and I walked out to mine. Walked through a big field. Got into a stand I've only been into a couple of times. Had some great sign. Was overlooking a big valley down here in Crawford County. With Crawford County, you got big valleys, big bluffs, lots of woods, lots of farm field. It was just a prime location. I don't even know if the rut was going at that point in time or not, but I bundled up that morning. It was a very cool, very moist morning where that cold just gets right to your bone. Walked up to the stand, got up in the stand, and I was starting to put some of my cold weather stuff back on, pull my hood back up, and zip up the coat, after all the sweat and heat just starts escaping you and start to get a little chill. And right around that time, I was fidgeting around a little bit and sitting there looking down this big valley and putting the glove back on. Once I put that glove back on, didn't hear it, but saw this enormous buck come walking out of this huge valley, right towards me, straight on. And I'm heart just a pumping at that point in time as he's walking up, and not a clue I was there. It was a beautiful moment. So I'm trying to figure out a point to raise the gun and make sure I have a good shot on him. And he got about 20 yards out and decided to take a hard right, to his right, and started kind of paralleling me and going back towards a different gully. And just trotting, not trotting along. He was just walking along, not a care in the world. And he finally got behind a tree, or his head got behind a tree, where it gave me an opportunity to pull up the gun. Sunny day. It was just a beautiful morning. And his head went behind that tree. I pulled the gun up. He took one, maybe two more steps, and presented that shoulder to me, and I let her rip. And I shoot a Browning 30-06 A-bolt that I got when I was 16. And it's my baby. It's been reblued a couple of times, and it's one of those guns that there's some cool ones out there that I really want to buy, but even if I buy it, I'm not going to hunt with it because I'm going to take the old Browning with me.
Yep.
And so it's got that boss on it, which is the muzzle brake. And he stopped, just absolutely stopped. He didn't look at anything. He just stopped, and I pulled that trigger. The crappy part about that was with that heavy humidity, the smoke, I'm shooting Federal Fusion ammunition, and it never smokes, but it was like I shot a black powder rifle.
Okay.
Just a huge puff of smoke comes out. and as you're shooting, right, you look to see where it hit and how the deer reacts and did I hit him good? And with that smoke, I couldn't see him. I'm looking through the scope. I drop the gun down. I'm looking. I hear crash, and then I hear a cuff thud as far as a drop down and into the ground, right? And little did I realize at the time that he had gone down in this gully. So I'm looking, and I don't see anything. And the smoke finally clears. It felt like 10 minutes until that smoke cleared, but it was probably 10 seconds. And I hear a little bit of thrashing, and then I hear nothing. So I, back to my days when my dad's teaching me to hunt back when I'm 10 years old. And the last spot I saw him, where I shot at him, I took a picture, right? Today we've got technology. It's a beautiful thing. Took a picture of the tree he was next to so that when I got down, I could look at it because, I've got my son. He's about a mile away from me. Yep. The landowner, he was doing his thing. He was fertilizing some fields. He wasn't hunting that day. It's just one of those deals where it's me. And a little preview. There's no cell service out here, right? We're in Crawford County. We're in the bluffs. We're up on top of a bluff, and there's zero cell service. Like, everybody likes to surf the internet or look at Facebook or whatever they're doing out in the woods. I can't do any of that, which is great. You get to get out of your mind and enjoy the outdoors, but there's zero cell service. So I couldn't even text any. I text my kid thinking, well, maybe it'll go through, but just text him, hey, that was me. And got down. I waited about 20 minutes. I heard the one thrash, and that was all I heard. So I get down from my stand, and I walk over to where I thought I shot him, look at the picture again, because I'm just like spot locked on this thing. And here's a little bit of hair and a whole bunch of blood. And I'm like, all right, here we go. I follow the trail, and when I say I follow the trail, it's like 20 feet to this gully. Yeah. And the gully I knew was there, but I didn't know that's where he went, right? So I look down in the gully, and up against this big stump, not stump, fallen tree, there he sits. I'm like, oh man, he is a monster, right? As he's walking up, he was just a monster. I'm like, I have never seen something with such a heavy beam on it before. This can't be real. So I'm looking at him and like, all right. So I got my gun, and a couple days prior, I had shot a doe. And when I shot the doe, I followed her and got her. I think I skinned her out, processed her the day before that. So we're at the farm, and use the tractor, lift the deer up, skin it out, quarter it up, throw it in the cooler, put a little cardboard down over the ice so you don't get the wet meat. And I'm again prefacing what's about to happen. So I get down there, right, and I walk down this hill, and it's a 100-foot ravine. I'm wow. Like, holy shit! How am I going to get him out of here? And I don't even have the deer. I haven't even touched the deer yet, right? And I'm how the heck am I going to get him out of here? So I scale down this ravine, and I slipped down half the hill. It was pretty nasty trying to get down in there. And so I'm looking at him, and he's it looks like he's just trying to rest up against this log. I'm thinking, man, his eyes are really glossy, and is he really is he dead, or is he still alive? Then I close the gap on him and walk up on him and kind of waiting to see. I had scoped him a little bit just to see if he was breathing or not. And the blood patch in the kill zone, right, told me, yeah, he's done for. But you never know, right? No. It was one of those looks that's like, is he still alive? Is he not? Right? Just the way his head was and his mouth wasn't open. And so I get up to him, and I'm walking slow, and I give him a little poke, and nothing. I'm like, holy crap! Look at this deer. And, you typical hunter, you take a bunch of pictures of where he's laying. He was posed for me in this thing. So I was like, cool. And I look up, and so I finally, get to the point of, all right, now we got to get him out of here, and how this happened. So he had jumped down the ravine. I think I only saw 2 spots where he hit on the way down. He got to the bottom of the ravine. He tried going up the other side of the ravine, and the crash I heard was him falling when he was halfway up the hill. And as he fell, he hit a rock, and that rock chipped his antler. So I was pissed, right? Like, man, it didn't take off a tine, but man, this thing was perfect. This is an awesome deer. Now he's got a chipped antler. Shit. And then I'm looking at him a little more, and I'm like, oh, it looks like some hair pulled, some slippage in the white spot on his neck.
Yep.
So at that point, I'm like, you know what? I've got one on the wall from 2 years ago. I've got a Euro mount from 2 years ago. I'm not going to mount this guy. I'll do a head mount on him. No big deal. Because of this little slippage on his neck. It was a bare patch, right?
Yep.
So I drag him off the log after I get all the pictures taken that I wanted to take. There's a ton of them, right? And I get him down, and I grab my backpack. I brought that down with me, and I open up my backpack, and I go to see where my knife is. I've got one of those replaceable razor blade. I think they're outdoor. I can't remember.
Outdoor Edge.
There you go. Outdoor Edge.
I got the same
right?
one. They're really nice.
Oh, I love those knives. Love them. I got a whole bunch of blades in there, but I don't have the knife. I'm like, shit. Well, you've always got a couple knives on you when you're hunting, right? But
yep.
I've got my pocket knife, and I've got another knife that I keep in my backpack that's not even close to an Outdoor Edge. So I grab my pocket knife. I'm like, and there's some predator activity in that area the day before. So I'm like, hey, I'm not going to let him sit. I'm not going to leave him here with his guts in. I know I got to go back to the truck to get a bunch of stuff to get him out of here, but I'm going to get him gutted out. I'm not waiting on gutting him out. So I used my Benchmade out of my pocket that, maybe I sharpened 6 months ago and gutted him out. Yeah, it was a chore, and back to the I'm not going to mount them. The way I learned how to gut deer, you go all the way up the chest, right? Make it nice and easy to get out the trachea and pull all that shit out of there, so you don't have to, dig around and maybe hit yourself with a knife. So cut them up to get the chest, get everything out, get them, sprawled out on all fours. And I've got my heavy stuff on, right? I wear my bow hunting stuff, heavy, my winter bow hunting stuff with an orange vest over the top of it, an orange hat, and decide, all right, we're going to leave him here. He's going to drain out. Everything's good. When I go back to the truck, I'm going to call the kid, let him know I don't want to bother him. He's still hunting. I can deal with this myself. I got a 4-wheeler back at the house. No big deal. So I hike out of the woods and then hike across the huge farm field, up the hill. And the elevation, I don't know. I think I've looked at the topo map, and it's like 980 to 1,000 feet that I had to go up, let alone the 600-700 yards that it is across these fields. So walk up, get to the road, walk back to my truck, and by this time you're sweating again. Like, all right, we're done with this. I'm not going to be hunting after this. I take off the bibs, I take off the heavy winter coat. I decide to, hey, there's my knife sitting in the back of my truck.
Yep.
That after I skinned and quartered up that deer the other day. That's awesome. So I had an old ratchet strap that had torn off, right? You put it on a 4-wheeler, and all of a sudden it hits the edge and snap, it goes, right? Yep. So I'm like, maybe I'll mount them. Maybe I don't know yet. At the one point I'm like, no, I've got enough on the wall. I don't need to do anything with this one. And so I grabbed this old ratchet strap. It's probably 2 feet long, and I get a big tow strap, and I find another rope in the back of my truck. Like, I've got 200 feet of stuff that I'm gonna go with. I grabbed my handgun, left my rifle at the truck, but stripped all of my heavy stuff off, and threw my orange vest back on, grab the backpack just in case I needed anything out of it. Grabbed the four-wheeler. Trailer was on the four-wheeler, so here I go. Go back out there, and the farmer had been, fertilizing the fields. And I get, I don't know, halfway back out to that field, and farmer jumps off his tractor, and, hey, what's going on? Well, I shot one down there. I show him a picture. Holy crap, man, that's a nice deer. Yeah. Where is he? He's down in this ravine. Oh, shit, I'm gonna come help you. Okay. Said, you really don't need to. I know you got a lot of fertilizing to do, so why don't you just keep doing what you're doing? No, I'm going to help you. Okay. So we jump on the four-wheeler, go through the field, get down into the woods, and there's a kind of a four-wheeler trail I was right off of in the stand, and the woods it opened up a little bit, but, there's down trees and everything you'd expect in the woods, and I'm thinking, all right, we'll just park it right here and walk down there and get it, and here's the ropes and everything. I showed him everything I had. I left the handgun in the back of the trailer. And so we get to this trailer. He's like, turn the four-wheeler on. Well, hook the trailer. We're driving it down there. I said, well, what? If we had a tractor, if I trust the tractor, we'd go down there with it, but I don't have the change on the tractor. So, nope. And I'm thinking to myself, I grew up hunting in the North Woods up north of Ladysmith, and having a four-wheeler back then was, taboo.
Yep.
Four-wheelers only came out like 5 years ago, in our opinion. And, you're coming down here, and they're like, I don't care if there's a whole bunch of trees. We're driving in there. We're going to pick this thing up and get it out of there. Okay. So we get down there, and, we find a place where after we, he jumps the four-wheeler over this, like, 16-inch tree that was down in our way, and a whole bunch of other crap. But so we get down to the top of the gully, and I find this nice path where it's going to come. The deer's going to come up pretty easy once we hook up all the ropes and the straps and all that fun stuff. So I hook everything up, and I kind of pull myself. I'm rappelling, right? I've never rappelled in my life, but I'm rappelling here. As I go down the hill with the straps and the ropes that we have hooked up, and yep, this is a good path, great. Well, the deer is about, 10, 15 feet away from it, right? And he's facing the other way after I put him out on all fours.
Yep.
So I'm like, all right, I got to move him. And I left the ratchet strap at the bottom of, where I'm going to hook him up. So I walk over there, I grab his rack, and as most, 43 at this point in my life, right? 43-year-olds, we still think that we're tough as nails, and we can do about anything.
Yep.
I grab his rack, I go to spin him around, and as I'm spinning him around, and it's, that one fell swoop of just pulling and going, because I've got 280 pounds behind me, and I got a little inertia going a little bit downhill. So we're going to get this guy moved in, a short order. Well, in this gully was just a crap ton of rocks, right? Like, I'm walking around down in there before, and looking back at it, it's like, oh shit, should have known this. But there's a bunch of rocks down there, small, medium, large, nothing consistent. And I go to flip them around, and as I do that, my foot hits a rock. And I'm still holding onto the rack, probably natural, and I go down, like I fall backwards. And as I'm falling backwards, the rack hits the ground, and my leg hits the rack, and I didn't think much of it. Man, did it hurt like hell! Like I'm damn, that hurt, and I'm hobbling around, and it was just a really weird situation. And I've fallen on a rack before, right? Pulling deer out of the woods, and it's not a big deal. And so I stand up, and the landowner's still at the top of the hill, and he's, hey, he used some fun words, right? I got stuff to do today. Can we get this done? And and he's joking around. That's the way we are. I've known the guy for 4 years since I moved down here, and we're good buddies. And he's just razzing me, and I'm just like, hold on a minute. And I'm limping around, and I'm, oh man, this really hurts. And I look down at my pants, and on my left leg is some blood. and I don't know, it's probably a 6-inch swath of blood on the pants. I'm like, man, did that soak through when I gutted that deer out? Did that soak through my bibs? And that's just really odd. So I'm trying to walk it off, and he's still up there giving me crap. And so I finally get to a point. I look at my leg again, and well, the blood's it's a little bigger now. So I sit down and I unzip the side because they're camel pants. They're kind of a that soft shell type pants, right? They're pretty strong and they're wind resistant and all those fun things. And so I zip up the side of it, and I'm wearing some nice camel mucks that come all the way up your darn leg, up halfway up your calf.
Yep.
And I pull up my pants, and what I see at that point was quite scary. I started seeing squirting blood coming through my long underwear.
Oh my God.
And at that point, I'm like, well, I look up. I said, we got a problem. and the farmer goes, well, don't you be bleeding in my woods. You need a Snoopy Band-Aid down there? Like, no, I don't need a Snoopy Band-Aid. All of a sudden, I kick off my boot, and talking to him afterwards, he goes, the second you kicked off your boot, I knew there was something wrong. So I'm holding it with my glove. I had switched out my gloves. I had some, deerskin leather gloves. How, that was just funny, right?
Yep.
So I'm holding it, put direct pressure on, right? I was a lifeguard at one point in my life, and I was an Eagle Scout, so I have some basic first aid stuff. So I'm holding direct pressure, and I'm like, I got to see what's going on. And I pull up my long underwear, and there are things that I saw on my leg that I never want to see again of my own body, right? I'm seeing white, and I'm seeing muscle, and come to find out, it was the fat and the muscle and the skin. And I see this 7-inch gash across the back of my leg. And I looked up, I said, we got a problem. I need you down here now. And then all the joking stopped. And he got into, all right, what do we need to do? So there's a strap at the bottom of the hill. That I was going to use for the, pulling the deer up the hill. It's like, yeah, I'll grab that. So he like slides down the hill, grabs the strap, comes over there. I put my long underwear back down, trying to, keep some cover on it. And I'm holding it, but it's squirting. It's not just oozing out, it's squirting. And I knew that was a problem.
Yeah, that's not good.
No. So I grabbed he hands me the ratchet strap, and I cinched it around my leg. And the first time I did it, I didn't, put it through the eyelet. I put it through the S-hook part. I'm like, no, that's not going to work. So I put it through the eyelet over that ratchet strap and started twisting it. And from what I've ever known about tourniquets, which I didn't know much about, I was always told, don't ever use a tourniquet or you're going to lose your leg.
Yep. Or
your arm or whatever you put on it, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm past that point. I need to do something or I'm not going to make it out of here. So I crank it down, and it hurts like hell. And one of the things I also remember about tourniquets is if it hurts like hell, you keep going until that bleeding stops. So I did that, and I'm still holding my hand, and I don't see the blood dripping anymore. So I'm kind of happy, and I pull my hand off, and okay, it's still oozing, but let's give her another crank. He goes, what do we got to do now? I said, there's no way you're getting me out of here, and I can't crawl up that hill. I said, we got to call 911. I'll go back to, my phone didn't work down there, right?
Yep.
And I think back to this all the time. If I wouldn't have stopped when the farmer, if the farmer wouldn't have stopped, and if I wouldn't have stopped and we had that chat, would I still be here today? Because his phone did work. So he calls 911, tell him what's going on, and they're like, all right, we're sending people. So he's talking to 911. They're sending people, and he goes, all right, well, I got to go show people where we're at. They're like, you can't leave him. Like, listen, if I don't leave him, nobody's finding us. I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. Well, then leave the phone with them. And then they hooked us up with La Crosse County has this medical dispatch, and they try to talk you through medical emergencies while it's going on.
Okay.
So, this guy is talking to me and, hey, are you still there? And, making sure I'm not passing out. And at this point, I'm feeling a little better. Like I've got the bleeding controlled, but right before that, I'm like, I look at this horizon because, you're in a gully and we're on a bluff. And I looked at it and I said, this is where I end. This is where I die. There's no more after this. And it was a hell of a moment. So then, the great part about it, instead of being able to sit there and think about the last things in your life, right, is you got somebody to talk to. And they're like, all right, how's the bleeding? How's the pain? How's this? You still with me? Are you lightheaded? They're going through everything, just making sure you're still with them, right? And, this hike that took me, it was probably 30 minutes to get out of that gully and back to my truck, right? I'm not moving fast at all. I'm just, moving along. It took the farmer about 5 minutes to do that entire hike.
Wow. Running,
rolling, just going. Got up to the road, so EMS knew where to go in, and all that. And so, all of a sudden I started hearing sirens. Before hearing sirens, I asked the medical people, I said, hey, on another line, can you call my son? They're like, call your son? I said, yeah, he's hunting with me. He's going to start hearing some sirens, and that's probably not a good thing for him to hear and not be able to figure out what's going on. No, you can just call him right off the phone. Like, oh, okay. Oh, that was a try anyway.
Yeah.
So 30 minutes go by from when we initially called 911, and I'm in rural Wisconsin, right? Like I'm probably 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes from my house to where I hunt, and I'm in town. Now my town is a town called Ferryville, and it's 191 people. Not a huge town, but you think of first responders and everybody's volunteer down here. So it was 30 minutes to the dot that from when we initiated the 911 call to when I finally saw them. Right, I heard them coming, but they've got to walk that walk too and get into the woods and do all that. And they finally got there at 30 minutes. They went to put a tourniquet on, so I already had one on. They were good with the one I had on, so they just left theirs hanging. And they started going through their checks, and they wanted to see it. I said, hey, have at it. Pull up the long underwear. Oh, we're going to cut it. Well, they didn't have any trauma shears with them, so they couldn't cut it. So we gave them a knife, and it got cut at that point in time. They're looking at it, and they bandage it, and they put some pressure bandage on it. And we sat there and waited. And I don't know. I want to say 15 to 20 people. People told me there's been more. There were more than that. But when EMS hears man gored by a buck and is bleeding profusely, a lot of people show up because they just want to see what the hell's going
That's
on,
right?
So there's I don't know, 15 people down in the woods, and a lot of them I know because it's a small community, right?
Yep.
I know them from going down and sitting at the bar, having a beer, or having dinner on a Friday night, and one of them was a good buddy of mine. He showed up, I don't know, maybe an hour into it, and we were supposed to cut deer up that night because I'd gotten a doe a couple days ago, right? And he gets to the top of the hill and he looks down, says some expletives, but also says, guess we're not cutting up deer tonight, huh? Yeah, no. So, that starts that. I want to say 3 different departments came to this. There's the Ferryville fire and rescue came. They were the first ones on scene, got me stabilized. Old Cooch Mountain Rescue came out. They've got a 6-wheel ATV with a winch on it. Gaze Mills came out. There's just a ton of people coming out, and they had to get a plan together. How the hell are we going to get you out of this 100-foot ravine? So I'm sitting down there, and a couple of first responders. Hey, want to get a picture of the deer? Yeah, you're not getting a picture of the deer without me in it. So I've got pictures from my buddy, the farm owner, of people taking pictures of me, or people taking pictures of me holding the deer, right? So a picture of people taking pictures is the funny part. But there's a ton of people wanting to take pictures of that deer. It was a nice deer. So some more time goes by, and they finally, all right, we're going to put you in this basket. We're going to hook you up to the 4-wheeler. We're going to lift you up. Go back to the beginning where I said I'm 6'4" and 280 pounds. Not a light guy. They had to cut a bunch of trees down to get that UTV back in there. They had to cut some trees that were across some trails. I mean, there was a ton of stuff to do. The first responders did just an amazing job to, 1, get back there, 2, get me stabilized, and then we're talking today, so obviously getting me out of there and getting me to the help I needed. So they got me up the hill. The little EMS humor they had was, hey, the last guy we brought out of a valley in one of these baskets, we only dropped him once, right? So it was like, oh, cool, great. But we were laughing and joking. That to me was a release for me, knowing people were there, knowing I was stabilized, the bleeding was controlled. I was going to make it out of there, and that was the huge part after throwing the tourniquet on and then them bandaging it and saying, yep, you did what you needed to do, and let's go. So they get me up the hill. They got me out of the woods. They had to carry me out of the woods. They couldn't put me in the back of the UTV in the woods because I would have fallen out. They get me out into the field, and then I think it was 8 people had to lift me up into the UTV.
Wow.
And I profusely said, man, I'm sorry for weighing so damn much. I'm trying to lose some weight if this ever happens again. Got me into the UTV. The UTV got me up into the ambulance. Sheriff's department's there. Hey, that's your truck? Yes, that's my truck. All right, we'll do all the paperwork. And 20, and then I don't even know exactly what time had gone by at this point in time, if it was an hour and a half or 2 hours. But now we've got a 20 to 30 minute ride to the hospital. So we get to the hospital, and being in this driftless region, there's not a straight road anywhere. So we're going around corners, going around curves, up and down hills. They cut my sweatshirt off of me. I was disappointed in that, but I'm awake. Could have taken it off. But I get it at this point in my life, as you'll hear later. They get things off of me. We get to the hospital, and they're like, "What happened?" And they're like, "Oh man, no, okay." So they put my leg up in this lift, and tourniquet's still on, and they unbandage it, and they were saying things like, "Holy crap." Mind you, the antler never penetrated any of my clothes. My pants never got a hole. My long underwear never got a hole. The antler went in
straight in the skin.
Took all my clothes, stuffed them right up in me. The antler went behind my knee, all the way up. So it's the top of my behind the top of my left calf.
Okay.
Went up and in, and the curvature it went right with it. Hit a couple muscles up in there, hit the artery, but it went all the way up into my thigh area. The pictures are just horrific to look at. Even asking me after I've seen them, but it went in. I have to get a tape measure, but it was probably 6-8 inches, right? And it just fell out. So they get my leg up, and they're looking at it, and the ER doctor, he looks at it, and he gives me this look. He goes, "I'm not your guy." Like, I said to him, I said, "I applaud you for saying that you're not the guy, and you're going to find somebody that can take care of this." He's like, "Yep, nope. We got a surgeon on his way down." They listened to my foot, made sure I had blood flow down there. The surgeon goes, "All right, we're going to get you into surgery. We're going to fix everything, sew it back up, and you got to take a COVID test first because last year I guess we were still in COVID." And I think that took like an hour and a half to come back. I didn't know a COVID test took that long, right? So I'm sitting there, and they're like, "Do you need anything for pain?" I looked at the nurse. I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" So I got some nice pain meds to relax me and put me in a state where I didn't care how long it took them, but let's just get this fixed. Got it all fixed up. Whole bunch of stitches on the inside, 23 stitches on the outside. Missed. I've got a tattoo on my left calf. Missed it by about a 16th of an inch. Surgeon even commented that people get mad when I get into their tattoos when I'm going in for surgery. Luckily, you missed it, and I'll try to stay away from it. Oh, you know what? Again, thank you.
Yeah.
So, that whole thing was just amazing, right? The way the deer antler went in, the way it didn't pierce my clothes, and that's why I didn't even think about it, right? Like, it didn't pierce my clothes. It wasn't ripped. It wasn't anything. It was just a blood spot. And I've done that before, where you've fallen on something, and I've done it on a deer antler before too, right? Like, I'm 6'4", I'm clumsy as hell, but it just hurts. And to know what happened after that, and to have the wherewithal at that point in time to, pull my pants up and holy crap, I'm bleeding really bad, and to put a tourniquet on, and having my buddy there that had the cell phone that worked, come to find out later, hey, Apple has this thing where for 2 years from the date of purchase, you've got SOS. I learned about that afterwards.
Oh, really?
I saw the SOS on my phone. Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
If you get out of service, as long as you have line of sight to the sky, right?
Okay.
You're going to see this little thing on your Apple phone that says SOS. Well, did a lot of research on that SOS afterwards when somebody said, "Oh yeah, you could have gotten through," but you can text 911 through that SOS. Now it goes into this cloud, and somebody from Apple grabs it and then kicks it down to your nearest responder, and all this fun stuff, right? Like, but as long as you've got that SOS on your phone, you're still golden, and that was really cool to know at that point in time. The other thing that was cool to know is the EMS around here uses this app called What 3 Words, and it's an app where, as you call in to 911, obviously it pings where you are,
okay,
and it gives a GPS location. So this GPS location, it's down to 3 feet, and this app, What 3 Words, they send it to the first responders. So they send it to the first responders. They type in these 3 words that dispatch gives you, and it brings you right to the person. So, in all technical purpose, did the farmer have to leave? No, he didn't. Did he help out in expediting where to come in and how to get in there? Absolutely, right? Nobody knows the land better than he does. So, those are some cool things with technology we have nowadays, and the SOS thing on the phone, and this What 3 Words. But nothing beats the down home knowing how to save yourself, right, with a tourniquet.
Yep.
Or having somebody there that can help out and guide people back to you. It's I still go back, and my wife got me I wanted to cover up a tattoo. I got a barbed wire when I was 18 years old. Hard to believe, right?
Yeah.
But I wanted to cover that up and went to the tattoo artist and said, I want this deer and this background, right? And it was one of my pictures I took right before everything went down. And it was the horizon that I looked at and said, this is where I end, right? So I got that big old tattoo on my arm right now and love every second of it.
That's cool.
But, all said and done, my kid, everybody's on one side of the ravine. Somehow he got on the other side of it and he just sat there and watched. It was, it wasn't traumatic for him because, everybody knew that I was going to be okay at that point in time. My landowner buddy had called at the time my fiance and said, hey, there's a problem in the woods. Well, there's not really a problem. Just call me back. So that's the kind of, how we were handling it. Trying not to be serious. It was serious. It was very serious, but trying not to, alert or send tons of people into a frenzy before we knew exactly how I was getting out and what was going to go on. But, and after that, went to a board meeting in the town and just said, hey, I gave a 5-minute speech with tears in my eyes about how Berryville Fire and Rescue did an amazing job at what, and how they saved me. But also, I look back at things like, my lifeguarding instructor, I called her here, I don't know, it wasn't a year ago, it was probably 6 months ago, and just saying, hey, this is what happened to me, and, the things you taught me in class, this saved me, right? So, talking to my old high school gym teacher, when I took WSI and basic first aid and CPR, and here I am 25 years later saying, or I don't even know if it's 25 years later, but whatever, 18 to 43, telling her, just calling her out of the blue, hey, this happened to me and what you taught me, I'm still here because of it. And, going through Boy Scouts and becoming an Eagle Scout and all the things I learned through there, just basic first aid and luckily having the right things in the right place at the right time. I could have used a belt or anything like that, but that ratchet strap was right there and ready to go. So just, I've never thought I never in my life had thought that going out hunting, I would be injuring myself or, I always heard the whole thing of, when you're gutting a deer out that, sorry, got distracted for a second.
Yeah, with the knife safety, not.
Yeah, knife safety. Gutting the deer out and the femoral artery. Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, femoral artery. Yep.
Your femoral.
Yep.
Right? Those are things you just don't want to do. That was the thing I always thought would take me out. Right? Like if anything in the woods would take me out, it was going to be a femoral artery.
Yep.
But that never happened. So got this Christmas, all my kids. All my girlfriend's kids, they all got first aid kits.
Yep.
And not just a basic first aid kit, like a trauma first aid kit. And a lot of that comes from, so, after my speech to the village board saying, hey, Berryville Fire and Rescue did an amazing job along with everybody else, I decided I'm gonna get on the fire department. So I got on the fire department.
That's awesome.
I went through and took my EMS class. I can't remember when I got done. I think in March of this year.
Okay.
I got my certification for EMS.
Wow! Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. It was pretty cool, right? Going through that, and,
yep.
Being able to share some of the stories and but seeing that. So did that. Been taking fire classes. I've been on, I think I've missed like 4 calls since I've been on the squad. Wow. I respond from my house, the department. I'm one of the guys that lives in the middle of town. So they're like, hey, we're going to give you one of these jump bags. so I can respond right from my house, not with lights and sirens, but I can respond from my house, and I show up. I'm one of the first ones there quite a bit, and it's so cool to, and as you're learning through EMS, you don't think about it this way, but you're there to help somebody on their worst day of their life.
Yeah.
And that's what they were there for me. Right. And so now it's my turn to give back, and I've got the skills. I've taken the classes. It's not just like I want to do this because I was there. It's I want to give back, and we've got a small community, and in our department, I would say it's big for our area. I think we've got 18 people in our department right now, but it's a volunteer department, and people work, and people have lives and families, and there's a lot of factors that bring it to, hey, sometimes we'll have 2 people that can respond to an emergency. Sometimes we'll have 10 people that can respond to an emergency. But so the luck of the draw, and a little bit of my pause there was the wife's coming in with my radio because I just heard tones go off in the background. But it's Sunday night, so I haven't seen anything come through on my phone, which it will if there's a problem. But it's cool to be part of somebody, to be part of a group to help others in that time of need, and to get them the care they need to, one, stop a death or stop whatever it is, and get them to the care that they need. Because as my story was, it was 30 minutes before they got to me, right? And that's a huge amount of time. But you think about it, and we're in this EMS shortage right now, right? So here's a plug for the EMS. It takes most of us 5 minutes to get to the station, to get to whether it's the EMS rig or the fire rig, right? And then how far away are we from there? Is it 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes? We've got a broad area that we cover, right? And a lot of the departments do. So, it's 15 to 20 minutes before anybody can show up, and that's if they're dressed and ready to go.
Yeah.
Not a 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. phone call or a page that goes out, and you got to get dressed, and middle of the winter, you got to let your vehicle warm up for a minute or so, and then you're on the road. So it's cool to be able to be part of something like that, and to help and to give back, right? To help be part of the people that saved me at one point in time, and be involved. It's so cool.
Yeah, you definitely come full circle. It's, who knows if you even thought about emergency service prior to this, or volunteering for something like this?
Not a bit.
Not a bit.
Not a bit. I mean, I've volunteered for scouting here and there, but never thought of doing EMS or fire before something like that happened. And I mean, everybody's got busy lives, and I used to travel a ton for work, and I spend a lot of time at home now. But even with the busy lives that you have, even taking the time out for the classes that I did twice a week for, I think it was 4 months, 2 nights a week from 6 to 9.
Yeah, that's a big commitment. Really
huge
is
commitment, but
for something that you're not getting paid for. Volunteering is so crucial to, especially in a rural area like that where you don't have coverage, where literally minutes count. I mean, minutes can save someone's life, and that's why I feel also that EMS is so important, because they're right there in the community. You might have someone right next door where you can just hop in your truck and you're a couple blocks away and you're there. Versus by the time the fire department gets there and you're the first one on the scene, and I mean, you could definitely change someone's outcome of that accident, or maybe 2-3 minutes later and they'd pass away, but you're there to give them emergency care immediately and save someone's life. So yeah, just full circle it's awesome. It's just giving back, and that's what the world's about, is just helping people out. There's not enough people out there. Like I said, I know my next door neighbor is a firefighter, and he says all the time how they're so short staffed all the time.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we had a fire last Thursday, and it was a barn fire, and our neighboring, it was in our neighboring fire department's jurisdiction, and we got called for mutual aid. And, three of us showed up from our department, and the other problem with being rural and people that want to be involved, right? Like, I'm part of two different squads right now, and there's others on our department that are part of 3, 4, 5 different squads. So now you talk about mutual aid, like, hey, we're going to get the neighboring department to help. Well,
Yep.
3 of our department members are already on this one, and they're not going to come from there. And it's unfortunate we have to cannibalize ourselves, but to help out when the mutual aid's not needed. But when the mutual aid's needed, it's tough. Just like your neighbor, there's not enough people.
No.
It's hard. There's lots of different programs out there trying to get people into it, but we don't get paid. We still have a life to do, and my work, they understand it, and they know why I do it. And I'll be in the middle of a Teams call, and all of a sudden I just hit the leave button, and boom, I'm in my truck and texting a couple people saying, hey, this is why I left, and all right, we'll see you when you get back, right?
Yep.
But it's just having that sense of urgency for somebody else's problems.
No, definitely need more people like you that have big hearts and care about the other people in the world. That's awesome. Yeah. So I want to get back a little bit. When you went in and had your surgery and they, stitched you up in that, well, I mean, how did that affect your daily life, or what have you had any long-term damage or mobility issues because of this?
Yeah. So, me being the stubborn Norwegian I am, Thanksgiving I took off hunting, but so it happened on a Thursday, or it happened on a Wednesday. Thursday I took the day off of hunting. Friday I went back out. I was on crutches, couldn't really move my leg, and I didn't go in the woods. Right, it was I'm gonna go sit in the field, and it was more of just sitting in my truck, and the gun wasn't even with me. It was more just to be out. But I went to Alberta here recently and did a lot of standing, and in the stand, all of a sudden my left knee just started killing me, and it was from the back side of my knee. And for the first day, I was like, what in the heck is going on? It's like someone's stabbing me. And then I realized that was this exact area where the antler went in, and it was a weather change. So weather changes are hard for me. Mobility wise, yeah, I've got some knee problems right now. Some are from prior injuries through water skiing and other dumb things I did as a kid. But I do have some mobility issues. Not that I need a cane, not that I need a wheelchair or anything like that. It's I got to take things a little slower and take a lot more ibuprofen than I ever used to. Right, just to go through some of that nerve stuff. Not too much nerve stuff, and being the lower leg. I mean, I got some tingling in my foot or some numbness in my foot every once in a while that's unexplained. But just not a lot. Luckily, the surgeon did a great job going in there, fixing the artery, fixing all the internal stuff, and then sewing it back up. And then, a little bit of rehab, just movement stuff. But long term, we're good to go. The part that hurt the worst for probably 2 months afterwards, I mean, the stitches obviously hurt like hell, but where I put the tourniquet on, it was just an immense pain. It was like, when you're with your cousins or your brothers, when you're a kid at Christmas and they're giving you Charlie horses, right?
Yeah.
You play that fun game. Who won the horse race? Charlie by a hair. I mean, it was all around my leg that way for a long time, and it was, I didn't do what they typically say to do now that I'm a trained EMS, right? They say high and tight, so get as far as up as you can, right in your groin area. I went, probably 6 inches above my knee, because I knew that, the femoral artery, you could still, it's pretty open right there.
Yep.
And it squeezed down on it good. no long-term effects from the tourniquet itself. Maybe some of that nerve stuff is, but I really don't think it is. And let's talk about tourniquets a second.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that, which I got to interrupt you for a second on the tourniquet thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, me being an outdoorsman and doing a lot of hunting out west and hiking and stuff, and in case what if something does happen? Not that I'm asking you for medical advice, but as EMS, I mean, like I said, we were taught in hunter safety not to do the tourniquet.
Right.
I mean, everybody hears about tourniquet, but I mean, is it something that you recommend the average Joe doing if you were to run in something, or only if you're properly trained, or is it okay to do on someone else? Or I guess at what point should we say, okay, we should use a tourniquet or not use a tourniquet, I guess, as far as definition wise?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Cause like everybody always said tourniquet, don't ever do it. And like I said earlier, I thought putting that tourniquet meant I was going to lose that part of my leg.
Yep,
right?
That's what I was always taught.
Yeah, and that's what's been ingrained in us for so long. And unfortunately, that's not the truth anymore, right? You look at, I'm going to go two different ways on this. One, you look at all the research that's been done, and all the research has been done on the battlefield, right? And it's 2.5 hours or so before you start causing permanent damage if applied correctly.
Okay.
Now, what I did for a lot of my family and the ones that are outdoors and, same type of situation, I bought a trauma first aid kit. I didn't buy them a first aid, just a Band-Aids and gauze and crap like that. It's a trauma one, and it's the same one I put on my motorcycle. It's got a tourniquet in there. It's got an Israel bandage. It's got a occlusive bandage. So occlusive, what the hell is that? You get a puncture in your chest. Maybe it's by your heart, by your lungs, whatever it is. Air gets in there, it's going to start pushing down, and your heart's not going to be able to pump anymore, and you can't breathe anymore. So this keeps the air out of your chest cavity. The hemostatic gauze, which it stops bleeding from, say, an artery, right? Those are the types of things, and the great part about that, without giving medical opinions, right, is it comes with directions. So read it before you do it. Look at some of this stuff online. I mean, you can get onto Amazon, and it'll tell you how to use it before you even buy it. Just write like a tourniquet, write the time on it. I'd say anybody, and as I learned in EMS, there's some points it's life over limb, right?
Yeah.
Do I want to save the leg? Do I want to save the arm? Or do I want to live, right? You think about different bleeding. If it's oozing is more of, let's call it a vein or a capillary, right? So blood returning to your heart. A pulsation or a squirting, that's an artery. And you're going to be dead soon. One of the dark humor in the EMS world is all bleeding stops eventually, right?
Yep. True.
And a capillary or a vein bleed isn't going to dump out as much blood as a high pressure. I mean, think of it like an oil line or something on your vehicle. You hit something in the road and you puncture an oil line. Guess what? You're going to run out of oil and it's going to be dead.
Yep.
So if you've got something spurting, cut that off, right? Not cut it off, but get a tourniquet on there. Write the time on there. Like I said, the military has done so much research on this. It's 2.5 hours, if applied properly, that you're not gonna do any permanent damage. So again, life over limb. Think of it that way. You might lose a foot, you might lose a toe, you might lose a half of your leg, but are you still here? You don't have to lay there in that ditch and say, "This is where I end," right?
Yeah.
So a good trauma. I won't tell you a type, but a good trauma kit from Amazon or some of these you see on Facebook, man, they may be like $90, right? But
okay,
is that worth your life?
I'd say
to
so.
Me, it is. Right? Even if you get a tourniquet and some pressure gauze, or you can piece together your own off of Amazon. or one of these Facebook sites for, I don't know, $30-$40. But, you see some of these outdoor first aid kits at some of your bigger named outfitters, right? They don't have anything but Band-Aids and gauze and a friggin' emergency blanket and a whistle and shit like that, right?
Signal mirror.
Yeah. I mean, go back to the SOS on the phone. I think you're going to find someone. It's more of what can I do to save myself in the next 5 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour before somebody can get out here and get me help.
Yep. Yeah, one thing I wish they'd teach in high school is basic first aid.
Oh, yes.
I wish it would be one of the classes that you had to take before you graduate, because basic first aid is something you're going to need your entire life. I mean,
it is.
Be it on yourself or a loved one, or if you have kids, or, just one of those life-saving things. It's, you don't need to know everything that an EMS or firefighter has to know, but just basic first aid skills. Right. CPR classes are very important.
Oh, yes. I mean, and now, the two things just popped in my head as you're saying that, right? Like, here, let's go with first aid. How many times has somebody said, you got a bloody nose, so tip your head back? Well, you're not supposed to do that. I've heard that for years, and then I figured out why. You're going to start aspirating, or you can choke on the blood, whatever. But even CPR nowadays, for the lay person, compression only CPR. Learn it. The American Red Cross has it on their website of how to do it, and it's an online class. You don't have to give breaths anymore. EMS.
Wow, I didn't even know that. I took CPR class when I was a police explorer back in the late 90s. So I didn't even know that it changed.
Ratios have changed. UW-Madison was the one that did the huge study on this, and if you think about it and the mechanics of it, don't need to get really deep into it, but as you're pushing on the chest, what's it doing? It's pushing air out of your lungs. So when the chest is coming back up, what's it doing? It's sucking air in.
Up. Yes.
It's not a ton, but it's enough to if it's enough to keep somebody viable to survive until EMS or somebody that's trained to do it does show up. Right.
Okay.
So compression only CPR, American Red Cross, go on and look at it. I mean, you just go to the beat of Staying Alive. That's CPR, right?
Yep.
Sing Staying Alive in your mind.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely look that up.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Write that down right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet a lot of things have changed since I took a class back in. Let me think here. 1994, I think it was. 93, 94, something like that. I think I was a freshman in high school. It's probably 93. Not to age myself here.
Yeah, no, you and I are both aging ourselves. I mean, that's when I first started taking lifeguarding stuff was back then. And, CPR was, you got to know 4 different ratios, and you got to have your pocket mask in your pocket, and, just all that. But no, it's, know the basics and just know compression only CPR. It's amazing.
Yeah. And especially as an outdoorsman, because we're putting ourselves at risk anytime. I mean, even if you're not a hunter and you're just a hiker, you can easily slip, fall, break an ankle, break an arm, hit your head trauma. There's so many different things, or the person that you're with can have that happen to them. And then there you sit and you're like, oh, I got no cell phone service and I don't know what to do. And if you knew some basic CPR things or basic first aid things, had a kit with you, you're able to stabilize that person, which is most important, is get them stabilized before you go get help. And then you ensure or give that person a better chance at a better outcome of the situation.
That's it. And you you think about back when you and I were growing up and you hear about these 50-year-olds dying of heart attacks on opening day of hunting, right?
Yeah, that was very prevalent.
Totally. And it's still, it's not as prevalent now, but you think about that, it's people like you and I that think we're in good shape and we go overexert ourselves and now we have a heart attack. and just knowing something simple to help that somebody, right? It's just knowledge is key.
Yeah. Well, thank you today, Kris, for all this information, especially once we get into the CPR stuff and the first aid. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
People out there are going to learn from this. And I recommend everybody out there take a basic first aid class. I know there's a lot of different places that offer them. You don't have to be a kid and going into being a lifeguard in order to take these classes. Just get some basic first aid, get yourself a basic first aid kit, read it, know how to use it. I mean, that's the biggest thing is not, people have stuff and they don't have a clue. You don't want to wait till the traumatic event happens and then you're trying to, in panic mode, and you're trying to read through a set of instructions or watch YouTube videos and try to figure this out. I mean, once you read something,
today, right?
once you read something once, it should stick with you, at least the basics of it. You don't have to be a trauma surgeon in order to do these things. No,
and just knowing what you have and what you can handle.
Yeah, and I didn't know that you would, after this traumatic event, that you had became a EMS and firefighter. That's awesome that you're able to give back in a rural community like that and potentially save someone's life. And who knows, maybe one of the people that helped you that day, maybe you're going to be helping one of their loved ones or maybe even them and saving their life. And maybe you're the first guy there and you're there to stabilize them and help them out. So, definitely that day, someone was watching out for you for sure. I've said this before and
for sure.
Apparently there's a higher power, thought you had more to do in this world and put that farmer there for a reason.
Yep.
You're able to find him because who knows, if you don't find that farmer, who knows what might have happened? Who knows how long you would have sat there?
Right.
And how much blood you would have lost and maybe lost consciousness and who knows?
Yep.
Maybe you and I aren't having this conversation.
That would be the ultimate, right? That could have definitely happened very easily in this situation.
For sure.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Kris.
Not a problem. Thank you, Brad. Looking forward to hearing the final product.
Will do. If you like what you heard today, click the subscribe button to hear more upcoming stories. If you or someone you know have a survival story you'd like to share, contact me at isurvivethewildoutdoors@gmail.com.